What's going on, everyone? With day one officially in the books of the 2025 NFL Draft here in Green Bay, and the Packers, for the first time since 2002, drafting a wide receiver in the first round in Matthew Golden out of Texas. It's been a surreal experience being here in Green Bay during the draft. I actually interviewed Matthew Golden on Wednesday, asked him what he'd think of becoming a Green Bay Packer, and he definitely seemed like he would love to be a Packer. And now that has all came true, Matthew Golden is a Green Bay Packer. I also watched his entire post-draft press conference live, and I think Matthew Golden is a terrific addition to this football team. Ran the fastest 40-yard dash at the combine, a complete burner at that wide receiver position, can fill right in for what we're going to be missing without Christian Watson, can become our kick return number one if that's something Keyshawn Nixon doesn't want to do anymore. And I think we also got a very good locker room football player, a guy that can become a leader, a mentor years down the line. Really liked hearing him speak during that interview, liked talking with him on Wednesday, and even when leaving Radio Row, I happened to cross paths with Matthew Golden, and he pointed me out for the Green Bay Packers hat I'm wearing here right now, and looked at me, and I just said, "Go Pack, go," gave him a fist bump. He said, "Go Pack, go," back, and went on his way. Just this surreal experience, and I love that the Packers finally drafted a wide receiver in the first round since 2002, but at the same time, I'm happy we can stop talking about that streak because it's over now. But day two is tonight. I'll be back on Radio Row for rounds 2 and 3, so I wanted to quickly do a mock draft. After round one has happened, all the picks that happen in round one, who's still available, because there are some great players available that the Packers could potentially move up into the second round to go get. So today we're going to do a mock draft rounds 2 through 7 for the Green Bay Packers to maybe try to predict and see what's available and what could happen tonight and even tomorrow. So bringing up the screen, just to quickly kind of go over some things, the Giants trading up for Jackson Dart was definitely a surprise. I didn't see them doing that after signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Obviously, Dart, a quarterback for their future, and they don't have to start him right away. So that's a good way to do it. The Falcons sending the house for James Pierce Jr. after already drafting Jalen Walker at 15 was crazy to me. If the Falcons would have offered that to the Packers, I would have easily accepted that deal, but maybe they hadn't, and the draft got farther and farther down the line, and they're like, we need to go get our guy. That was pretty crazy. Malachi Starks at 27. Tyleik Williams, I know Lions fans might not be as happy about this, but I really like Tyleik Williams. Maxwell Harrison sneaking into the first over Will Johnson is a crazy storyline. The Eagles ending up with Jihad Campbell, of course. This happens every year. There's a top-tier player, a guy that has elite traits that for just some reason falls down in the draft and ends up with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. I feel like everyone and their mother was mocking Josh Simmons to the Chiefs there at 32. So, we're starting in round 2 tonight, and Cleveland has 2 early picks due to that Jacksonville trade. Honestly, I think Cleveland won round 1 by trading down to 5, still getting a very good player in Mason Graham, picking up another second, picking up a future first in next year's draft that's going to be a lot better at quarterback. And they still could go quarterback like Shadur Sanders here at 33. It could happen. But the Packers pick at the same spot as they always had in the second round at pick 54. But there's a ton of talent still available on the draft board to start night 2, such as Donovan Ezaraku, who we all thought would go in the first round. Will Johnson, who we all thought would go in the first round. Now, I will say this about Will Johnson. If the Packers weren't going to select him at 23 and the Chargers weren't going to select him at 22, and we know Jim Harbaugh has that connection, probably even spoke to the doctor that works on Will Johnson, I don't really see the Packers selecting Will Johnson at all in this draft. Even if somehow he falls to 54, the Packers just aren't a team to stop the trend. And although a lot of people wanted Will Johnson, clearly something is wrong. I believe it's with his knee now. It's not even about the turf toe or the shoulder. I think he has degenerative knee issues. That's a problem. So I don't see the Packers ending that trend. We still have Trey Amos, and he was my first round prediction for the Green Bay Packers, and maybe they still end up with Trey Amos with a slight trade up here. The great thing about last night for the Packers is we got a receiver, and we still have needs at corner and defensive line in terms of defensive line and edge, And not many of those were off the board last night, meaning there's still so many cornerbacks, still so many edge players, and even defensive linemen available in the second round. And the Packers are likely bound to have one of them fall to them or for a slight trade up and go and get a really nice player. Savon Ravel is still available, Benjamin Morrison, TJ Sanders, Jared Ivey. There's a ton of players available. So let's dive down into this mock, get this thing rolling. And if there's a potential trade up situation, I'll go for it. If not, see you at pick 54. So early in this mock draft in the second round, a lot of the players that we didn't expect to be available go right off the board. Now, this is a simulator, so that might just be because they're highly ranked and the simulator's going, okay, these players need to get taken, but they fell for a reason, right? So they could fall even further. But Ezraka goes at 34, Shedeur Sanders at 33, Scorton at 35, Will Johnson at 36. The Browns get Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, and Will Johnson. If that does happen, I don't think anyone would have predicted that. Trey Amos does go to 37. So I was thinking if he falls to around 40, somewhere around that mark, could be a potential trade up for the Green Bay Packers to go and get their cornerback. Didn't do it in this mock. Mike Green continues to fall. As much as it would be cool to draft Mike Green and then our first two picks be Green and Golden, the aura behind that would be unreal. I just don't see it. I don't really see the fit with the Green Bay Packers. Savon Ravel is definitely intriguing and an option for the Packers. If he continues to fall, Braden Swinson, JT Tuimoloau, Landon Jackson, Benjamin Morrison goes at 48. We don't really need to look at wide receivers too much until later in this draft now that we got Matthew Golden in the building. But I ended up sticking at 54 just because a certain player that I drafted in the Brian Gutekunst mock draft is available, and I still see it as a very feasible pick for the Green Bay Packers in round 2. And that's going to be TJ Sanders, defensive lineman out of South Carolina. Traditional 3-tech defensive lineman. The Packers are going to always draft for the future. This could be the last year of Kenny Clark. I know we lost TJ Slayton, and we do need a run-stuffing, gap-filling defensive lineman, and I probably will address that later in this draft. But TJ Sanders is very intriguing, still 21 years old, almost 22. A 3-tech who can win against the pass, can win in the running game. We see an 8.8% run stop rate, a 12.6% pass rush win rate, coming off back-to-back 5-sack seasons. He had 9 quarterback hits, 19 hurries, 2 batted passes. To me, it just seems like a very good fit with the Green Bay Packers. And they went offense in the first round, so I do see them going defense. And I know a lot of people might say, we need a cornerback, right? But Jair is still on the roster, and even without him, I still think you can get a solid corner in round 3, round 4. Now, there are 2 very good options here, Darian Porter and Azariah Thomas. Thomas is someone I really like. I don't know if he'll be on the Packers' radar. Darian Porter most definitely is on the Packers' radar just because, zone corner, high RAS, great athlete. But I think I'm still going to go TJ Sanders. It just feels like more of a Packers-style pick here in the second round, and I think he might be available at 54. And there's still good options after him, like CJ West, Alfred Collins. But after those 2, which will likely be gone by our pick in round 3, I'm not too high on some of these guys down here. I think Ty Robinson will even be off the board. So we're going to go TJ Sanders, defensive lineman out of South Carolina here at pick 54. So I ended up sticking here at our pick at 87, and funny enough, CJ West is still available. Went TJ Sanders, still stand by that pick, although CJ West is very intriguing, to plug in right into the middle of that defensive line. Ozzie Trapillo is available, Elijah Roberts, Jared Wilson, Wyatt Millum, Jack Sawyer. A lot of people like Jack Sawyer, continues to fall. I don't see the fit with the Green Bay Packers due to the shorter arms. And for that same reason, I think Ashton Gillotte might be off the Packers board. I love Ashton Gillotte. I like him a lot, but I think he has slightly longer arms than Jack Sawyer, but still very short arms. And again, the Packers typically like their edge rushers at like 34-inch arms, which Gillotte and Jack Sawyer both don't have. Jordan Birch is off the board. Elijah Roberts is definitely an option here for sure. But we already got TJ Sanders, who I know Elijah Roberts is an edge essentially, but he could definitely kick into 3-tech, 5-tech. So we're not going to go Elijah Roberts there. Now, again, you could go offensive line with Ozzie Trapillo. You could go Jared Wilson, or you could take a look at some cornerbacks available. Dorian Strong, I think, could be on the Packers' radar. He's a little bit lighter than they typically like at 185 pounds. They usually like their corners at 190 minimum, usually higher than that. Jacob Parrish is another one I like the player, but does he fit the Packers thresholds at 5'10", 198? Now, still 21 years old, and Jacob Parrish is very, very intriguing. An outside cornerback, really good in zone coverage. a reliable tackler. And I also think Quincy Riley is an option. Now, he's way down here on PFF's board. I think Quincy Riley could definitely go in round 3. He could even sneak into round 2. But I think the player I'm going to go with after, addressing receiver, addressing defensive line is going to be Jacob Parrish. I don't know if I've drafted him in a Packers mock draft. And it's traditionally because I look at the thresholds and I go, well, he doesn't really fit them for the Packers, but nor did Matthew Golden. He was a little bit shorter than they typically like, a little bit lighter than they typically like, yet they went with him in the first round anyway. So maybe Gutekunst is kind of pulling back a tiny, tiny bit on those ever so strict thresholds, which I think we can all agree we want him to do. We still want to have, a basis of certain players to draft and what fits our scheme and whatnot. But I think letting loose a tiny, tiny bit on those thresholds and simply looking at who can go out there and play some ball, like Jacob Parrish, is something that the Packers should do more. So I am going to go Jacob Parrish here and address the cornerback position. Coming off a 1 interception season, allowed 73.3 passer rating allowed. In 2023, had 4 interceptions, even better season in 2023. We know how I always say, the Packers like players that 2 years ago had a really, really good season. Jacob Parrish makes a lot of sense for the Green Bay Packers. He really, really does. Also a very, very nice athlete. He scored an 8.82 RAS, and the only reason it's not higher is his height. He's 5'10". Now, he is 191 pounds, so he does fit the Packers' weight threshold, so he has some muscle on him. He can go and make some tackles. No problem there, but he has elite speed. It seems like the mantra of this year's draft could be speed for the Green Bay Packers. 4.35 speed and a great explosion as well. So we are going to go Jacob Parrish, cornerback out of Kansas State here at pick 87. So we're back on the clock at 124 in the 4th round. I stayed put in round 2, round 3. But I still think the Packers want to pick up more draft picks, if it makes sense. We keep saying, Gutekunst has said that so many times, he wants to pick up more draft picks. I think a trade down in the 4th is an option here. Now, we could go offensive lineman with someone like Jalen Rivers or Logan Brown on the outside. We already addressed defensive line, corner, wide receiver. So I think the next, position you'd be taking a look at is edge. And Tyler Batty, I think, is an option. Hassanin and Q Robinson, I don't really see fits with the Packers. But again, maybe they change their thresholds and finally drafting edges in the 4-3. But I do see some fits down here for the Packers. I drafted in the Gutekunst mock. I drafted both of them, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins and Tyler Barron. And I think I can trade down here, get one of them and another player with a potential additional draft pick. So I'm going to explore trade here. So I'm going to try to trade down with the Tennessee Titans here, trading 124, dropping down to 141, but picking up 178 while doing so. Moving back, getting an extra pick, probably still getting the player that I want, picking up that extra pick, getting another good player there. Just feels like something the Packers could do in the middle rounds here to then have 9 total picks in this draft class. So we're going to go ahead and send through that trade. Again, that was done through the Rich Hill trade value chart, so it's equal value there. And let's get to our pick. So on the board at 141, and I'm kind of mixing both of what I think the Packers are going to do and what I would like them to do. And I do still think they're going to go Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins in this draft. He just really feels like a Packers style player. We already got TJ Sanders on the defensive line, getting a very athletic edge that can play the run, get after the quarterback against the pass, coming off a 3-sack season, pretty solid pass rush win rate of 7.2%, run stop rate of 6.1%. Like I said, a tremendous athlete. Checked in at a 9.09 RAS, 6'5", almost 276 pounds, elite explosion, pretty good speed, good agility. Makes a lot of sense for the Green Bay Packers, a younger Georgia defender with a ton of potential. And we need some depth at the edge position to add in with Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox Jr., Kingsley Enaberry, Rashawn Gary. It makes a lot of sense. I do like Tyler Barron a lot too, but I'm going to go Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins here at 141. Now I'm going to pick another player that just feels like a Green Bay Packer, and I did the same exact thing in my Brian Gutekunst mock. So again, I'm still trying to depict what the Packers are going to do tonight and tomorrow, and that's going to be Caleb Rogers, tackle/guard out of Texas Tech, has 55 starts under his belt, has played pretty much every position but center, is versatile, he's a senior, he's played a lot of college football, has a lot of experience. That just seems like a Packers type, and he's also a good athlete. So we are going to go Caleb Rogers here, tackle/guard out of Texas Tech at 159. Now we're on the board at 178, and as much as I'd love to say, hey, we're going to go Quincy Riley, he's consensus like 106. I don't see him being available any way, shape, or form in the 6th round. If he is, run the card up. But I don't really see it being a complete option here. I think a better option at corner would be Jason Marshall Jr. or someone that's actually going to be available here at 178. So we could go for another cornerback here. We could also go for another wide receiver. I mean, Elijah Badger's available, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Now, we already kind of got our burner, our deep threat in Matthew Golden, where Elijah Badger, more of that technical guy that could play the Z. You can move him around a bunch. Didn't have a single drop in 2024 for that Gators offense. Obviously, an Arizona State transfer. He's a guy I really like. We could also go with another defensive lineman if we really wanted to, like Deone Walker, if we want him to potentially play nose tackle for the Packers. I think, they could go for a second interior offensive lineman here, but I don't know about back-to-back there. You could also go with another edge like Tyler Barron, kind of similar to what I did in the Brian Gutekunst mock draft, but I think I'm definitely in between corner and wide receiver and both of the Florida Gator players. And I honestly might be able to get both. So I think I'm going to go with Jason Marshall Jr. here in the 6th round. Let's see exactly what pick we are. 6th round, 178. Feels like a Packers-style player there at cornerback. Again, I would like Za Frazier or Quincy Riley. I don't think either of these guys will be available here in the 6th round. I think Jason Marshall will, and just really feels like a Packers-style cornerback. Taller, heavier than Parrish, who we got earlier in this draft class, I think would complement very well, get more depth on the outside, get players that can play special teams day one, maybe turn into something more. So we're going to go Jason Marshall Jr. corner out of Florida here at 178. So I was going to go Elijah Badger, but of course the Lions had to ruin everything, and they go Elijah Badger 2 picks before me. I would hate this. I think Dion in our last mock on Roundtable Sports took Elijah Badger, and I hated it then, and I would hate it now, and I'd hate it in real life. So hopefully the Lions don't do this. So that kind of messed up my next pick here at 198. I think the Packers maybe could go linebacker in this draft at this spot. I like Jay Higgins out of Iowa. Very intriguing one there. Teddy Buchanan out of California. Very, very good athlete. Jay Higgins is an interesting one, a good coverage linebacker here. A guy that, maybe they bring in to play special teams right away. I know they brought back in, Christian Welch. They had Isaiah Simmons in for a visit. And Jay Higgins maybe, is someone they could be targeting in later rounds. Clearly, they still want to add talent to that linebacker room, at least rotational, special teams if they brought Isaiah Simmons in for a visit anyways. So I think I am going to go linebacker here. Sean Dolak is another option. He's a sleeper. I think he played some phenomenal football this past season. He's an option for the Packers. But I think I'm going to go Jay Higgins at linebacker out of Iowa here at pick 198. Here at 237, I'm going to do it yet again like I did in the Gutekunst mock and go and get Cam Horsley. So we got TJ Sanders. Let's go and get our gap-filling, middle of the defensive line nose tackle, guy that's really, really good against the run and played under Jeff Hafley. There's just so much connection here, and it makes so much sense in terms of what the Packers need, in terms of what they could target, in terms of Jeff Hafley at Boston College. It makes so much sense, and it's an easy pick for me. I think it could even be an earlier pick, say in the 5th or the 6th round, if that's where the Packers view him. But I'm going to grab him here at 237 because he is available. I have him ranked higher than this. He could definitely go higher than this, but we are going Cam Horsley, defensive lineman out of Boston College at 237. Here in our final pick in the 7th round, I'm going to get another edge in this draft class. I was thinking wide receiver. I still think there's a lot of potential that the Packers do end up with another wide receiver in this draft class. But I'm going to double dip in the edge room because I do really like Fadil Diggs as a late round guy, 7th round guy, coming off an 8-sack season, 6'5", 261. He transferred from Texas A&M to Syracuse and played very, very well in 2024. We see in 2023 for Texas A&M a 4-sack season, but has 3 years of starting experience at edge. Not the best against the run, but really, really good at getting after the quarterback. A situational pass rusher guy that can play special teams. Just add him to that edge rushing room. So to finish this mock, we are going Fadil Diggs, edge out of Syracuse. All right, so that does it for my rounds 2 through 7 mock draft, the day 2 of the NFL draft. I'm live here in Green Bay at the WIXX studio. Figured I'd send a mock draft to you guys to kind of see who's available, how the draft could potentially fall tonight and tomorrow, and seeing what the Packers, what route they could go after selecting Matthew Golden at pick 23. Let me know what you think of that pick down in the comments below. I really like it. I think some people are upset because, we need a cornerback. But hey, It's been so long since the Packers went receiver in the first round, and he's a guy some people had mocked all the way up to 12 to Dallas, so I think the value was good there. I go TJ Sanders in the second round, still sticking with my guns here with what I think the Packers are going to do, and I still think it's going to be TJ Sanders in the second round. I finally address cornerback in round 3 with Jacob Parrish. Not really on the Packers' thresholds, but Matthew Golden was kind of under that line a little bit, and maybe the Packers, like I said, pulling away from that a little bit. So I go Jacob Parrish in round 3. This guy is a good ball player. I go Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins after a trade down. Still feel like the Packers is going to get this guy. Athletic, edge from Georgia. Caleb Rogers at tackle/guard from Texas Tech. Athletic, versatile, played a lot of college football. Jason Marshall Jr. in the 6th round. Depth, rotation, special teams, tall, rangy, physical corner. Jay Higgins in the 6th round. Packers seemingly still looking to bring in another linebacker, and Jay Higgins is a great option in the 6th round. Cam Horsley in the 7th. All the connections are there. We need a new nose tackle. It makes so much sense. Then finally, Fadil Diggs in the 7th to add more depth to that edge rushing room with a guy that, in my opinion, is pretty underrated. And if you can get him in the 7th round, I think that's terrific value. So let me know what you guys think of this mock draft. I'll be live tonight on Radio Row, behind the scenes, behind the draft for rounds 2 and 3. So make sure to come on by to the channel tonight. It means a lot. Thank you to all who came by the channel last night, watched the couple videos I put out. You guys are the best. You are what allows me to be here. So thank you guys again so much. But I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.